This could go on a lot longer and be, I mean, it's already going to be brutal, and it already has been brutal. It's going to be even more brutal. The question is, does it spin out of control in a way that pulls in a lot of other countries? And let's hope not, but there's no way to know with these guys.
The Financial Survival Network. Now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to Watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. It's 10/9/23. Another war has popped up in the Middle East, of all places, almost 50 years to the day of the Yom Kippur War, which makes one wonder if they were planning it for that and something happened. Well, there's a lot going on. We've got a huge list here. John Rubino is with us now. RubinoSubstack.com. That's where you find his work. Emails are welcome. KL@KerryLutz.com. Well, John, welcome. It's a great time to be a defense contractor, isn't it?
Gary, yeah, it is. We have another Middle East war, and the weapons maker stocks are up low double digits this morning. So yeah, it's a great time to be in the military industrial complex. Terrible time for almost everybody else, though, because now I think we can officially say we're back in the 1970s, because all that was missing was a Middle East war. And so, the Ukraine war is kind of it's a reasonable substitute, but there's no true substitute for a good Middle East war, So, and I think we're there now.
Hey, well, you got to figure, like, one thing that the Ukraine war has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt is that the Soviet bloc era weapon systems need to be scrapped immediately. So that's been great for the contractors. And now we're going to see that the whomever it is, Hamas, whatever they're calling themselves, their weapons are going to be Iranian. They're going to be black market weapons, probably a lot of our weapons from Afghanistan. But the Israelis are known to take our weaponry, the West's weapons, and improve upon them. So a whole new armament cycle, right? Rearmament.
I mean, that's definitely one part of the process. But the real question with this latest war is it going to spread? Because right now, the invasion by Hamas is over, and now comes the slaughter part where Israel goes in and just basically takes their revenge. But it's, some of the news stories have Iran playing a big role in this and stuff like that. So is Israel going to want to punish Iran? And does that pull the U.S. in? And does that pull Russia in on the other side? And so we're nowhere near done with all the secondary effects of this. And it could easily spin out. The Middle East is such that it could easily spin out of control.
Tinderbox.
So, yeah, totally. With the world's great powers there, messing around and causing trouble for their own reasons. So yeah, this could go on a lot longer and be, it's already going to be brutal, and it already has been brutal. It's going to be even more brutal. The question is, does it spin out of control in a way that pulls in a lot of other countries? And let's hope not, but there's no way to know with these guys. So
I fully expect it to. I think we will see 2 or 3 more wars in the next 6 months pop up. All right. This is a time to settle scores. All right. And whether it's Israel against Iran, I don't know that China is actually going to attack Taiwan, because they sustained a lot of damage to their military infrastructure with these recent floods. And Taiwan's been digging in for 50, 60 years, waiting for the inevitable. It's not going to be a cakewalk like many of you think. Plus, Taiwan's got missiles. Every single major dam in China will be targeted by Taiwan, and it's impossible to do a surprise attack. India and Pakistan, India and China, China and Russia, and India and Russia. All of these countries got bones to pick. And one or more of them is just going to see this as an opportunity. The U.S. is too busy doing what they're doing, in the Middle East and in Ukraine, and they're just going to go for it, John.
Well, I kind of think it's more likely that we see an alliance or a strengthened alliance of Russia, China, and India, and Iran. I think the risk is that those other countries are pulled into a fight between the U.S. and Israel and Iran. But Russia and China are on the same side now, and India is leaning their way. So, and that's our fault. I mean, we've antagonized everybody else in the world, including Germany. The great nightmare for U.S. geopolitically is an alliance between Russia, China, and Germany, right? Because Germany has the manufacturing base, Russia has and China has a different kind of manufacturing base, and Russia has the natural resources. Well, our actions are kind of pushing those guys toward each other. So it's like we don't understand our true interests here. And I mean, especially with Germany, we had Germany locked down basically as a member of NATO, and then we blew up their natural gas pipeline and forced them to deindustrialize. So they can't be happy with the U.S. So I think that, the evolution of the different alliances out there does not favor the U.S. anymore. And you got to wonder if the psychopaths running the U.S. military right now are looking at it as, this is our last chance to just kill everybody who's in our way. And maybe we're going to so, it's a very uncertain world. And gold being up $25 today is kind of a reflection of that, because all of a sudden, safe haven assets are looking better and better. I mean, do you want to own a big tech stock, or do you want an oil stock and a gold miner or something like that? And I think that the worse things get out there, the more we see that flow into hard assets accelerate. So, this is all part of the investment thesis, but it's a little hard to think about that with everybody suffering the way they are, because right now we're in the humanitarian crisis stage of this. And hopefully,
well, I certainly see your point, but China has had its eyes on Siberia for decades. China needs more land. They might do an alliance to try to further weaken the United States. I see that. But in the end, the place is turning into a desert. The infrastructure is all falling apart. The easiest play for them is to take Siberia, and recently they took possession of an island that Russia and China had been disputing since the end of World War II. China's got ambitions. We're gonna have to see. India has been trying to play China and Russia off the U.S. for decades without aligning to the U.S. because they're anti-West due to the colonization by the Brits way back when. They don't trust the West, but if they want to become China's the substitute supply chain, they're going to have to play ball. So I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I do believe we will see at least 1 to 2 more. Maybe it's all part of the same war, but 1, 2, maybe 3 more battlefronts open up during the next 6 months, because it's the time to. This is the time. And Turkey could well be involved in some of this as well. And you could see a massive war in the Mideast between, the Saudi contingent and the Iranians. The Iranians, as far as the Shiite and the Sunni Muslims, they've never gotten along. They've always been at each other's throats. Millions of people have been killed. But one thing's for sure, the global economy is going to go kaputski from this. I mean, if it continues on and it spreads as we're expecting it to, there's no greater destruction of wealth than war in 2 ways: physically blowing up assets and inflation, because wars are extremely inflationary. So we get capital being destroyed and inflation taking place at the same time, and that spells disaster for the world economy.
Yep. In other words, the 1970s all over again, only with way more debt. See, we're in much worse shape than we were in the 1970s. So give us rising inflation, spiking oil prices, geopolitical chaos, and a general sense that we're incompetent now and we're not good at doing anything anymore. And you get a currency crisis, and you get even you get soaring precious metals, you get an energy crisis, you get all the things we had in the 1970s, but with one big difference, that there's no solution this time around. Because back then, we could respond to all that stuff with much tighter money and double-digit interest rates, but you can't do that this time because it bankrupts everybody. Already, look at mortgage applications in the housing market. It's as low as it's been since like 1990, and when we had far fewer people. But still, nobody's taking out mortgages now at this rate. And commercial real estate tanking. The delinquency rate on
credit cards,
on
mortgage.
Commercial real estate,
asset-backed
bonds is spiking. So it's all the stuff that happens during a financial crisis, and we just haven't caught on to it yet because there's this illusion that the labor market is actually healthy. But these last few jobs reports have been a decrease in full-time jobs and an even bigger increase in part-time jobs. So they were able to say more jobs, but it was actually people having to take second and third jobs to get by. That's the same people who are putting their day-to-day lives on credit cards now, and who are having trouble paying back their student loans now that those payments are kicking in. So you got a growing contingent of people out there who are in really bad shape. And it's not apparent yet, but it will be in the personal bankruptcy stats as they evolve. So that's when it really starts to bite, when people stop paying on their credit cards. And then you got, credit card losses mounting for Capital One and Chase and the rest of those guys. And then people defaulting on their mortgages and people defaulting on their car loans. So that's what's beginning now and what's going to really metastasize in 2024. So I think the Middle Eastern war is just the kind of thing that is like lighting the fuse right now, because it's scaring everybody into behaving in conservative ways with their money at a time when other people are desperate for that loan that gets them through the next month. And so 2024 is going to be definitely a recession year. And the question is, does it become something much worse than a recession? So we'll find out about that. But all these wars are not helping.
Hey, don't forget they redefined they restated the definition of a recession, which used to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Now they said, because the labor market's strong, we didn't really have a recession, but we've been in a recession, certainly in real terms, in terms of inflation-adjusted GDP growth and inflation in general. We've been in a recession.
Yeah, you can make the case that we understate inflation, which means we overstate economic growth, which means we could easily, those 0.4% quarters could easily be negative 0.4% if we were presenting the numbers honestly. So yeah, but if you have to ask if you're in a recession, you aren't quite there yet. There will come a time in the not too distant future when nobody's asking that question. They'll be asking, are we in a depression?
Yeah.
They'll accept that it's a recession. So, and that's what happens when you borrow this kind of money. We are wildly over leveraged by every measure you can think of. And the only thing that kept it from turning into that recession/depression previously was all the stimmy checks and the student loan forbearance and the rent forbearance and all the excess savings that built up during the pandemic lockdowns. Those are all gone now. The excess savings thing has melted away, and in the not too distant future, nobody's going to have excess savings except the top 10% of the economy. And more and more people are putting their day-to-day lives on credit cards and paying 20% interest. There's an awful lot of red flags out there. Oh, and banks have massive unreported embedded losses on their bond portfolios, which they're going to have to start reporting. Yeah, they're going to have to start reporting that. Yes.
By one count.
And a lot of that is with the regional and local banks who really can't survive a report of, say, a $20 million loss on their bond portfolio. That's the kind of thing that'll cause a run on their deposits, which basically puts them out of business, and that's out there waiting to happen across the board. So lots of stuff like that is all. I have this series now. It didn't start out as a series, but it's becoming one on Substack called Recession Watch, because every couple of weeks there's an entire post worth of bad statistics that you can point to as pointing towards a recession. So my trouble or my challenge with that series is winnowing down all the bad statistics to something that is like 800 words, that you can read in 5 minutes. Yeah. So it's coming.
Speaking of other things, so oil is back up, and the yield curve is flattening, and the UAW strike is widening. Even Keiser Permanente, they had a strike, and they're like a health insurer, HMO. And hey, the only bright news on the horizon, John, is that there was an article today that the apparel industry is celebrating the entree of weight loss drugs because they're going to reclaim a large part of their market, meaning that people will get back down to lose 15% of their body mass, their weight, and then they'll be out there at Lululemon and Gap and Banana Republic and Bloomingdale's and Macy's, and they'll be buying clothes like there's no tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe if they don't have any money, they'll have to go to the thrift shops to do that.
So they feed us fake food with all kinds of industrial chemicals that mess up our metabolisms and make us fat. Then they addict us to social media, which means we just sit there and stare at screens all day long and get even fatter. And then they hit us with pharmaceuticals to help us lose the weight so we can go out and buy clothes. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this will not help the clothing companies, but it will help the funeral house chains. Because
and Big Pharma.
Big Pharma. It's already helping Big Pharma because they're selling the weight loss drugs, but the side effects of the weight loss drugs will end up killing more people than the clothing manufacturers will have come in buy skinny clothes. Besides, overweight people already have fat clothes and skinny clothes because their weight tends to fluctuate with the diets and stuff. So they're not going to go out and buy more clothes. What they're going to do is take those drugs and die of the side effects. So,
hey, at least they'll die thin. They'll die with a nice corpse. So there's something good to be said about it, right?
There is that. Live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse. So you can at least satisfy one of those three criteria with these diet drugs.
Well, I predict that there will be because the cost of these is so high and the government won't pay for it, there's going to be illegal drugs. People will be manufacturing these weight loss drugs in their kitchens and in their bathtubs, just like they did with hallucinogenics during the 60s. And you'll have designer weight loss drugs, and they'll basically, the price will go down to nearly nothing because everybody will be making them.
Well, and then they'll start slipping fentanyl in there, and to make you feel relaxed while you're losing weight. Then those people will die too. Now, I think this is going to end with lots of people dying, no matter how we slice it. It's just going to be one of those things that, like the treatments we cannot mention still. It's going to be one of those things where it starts out with a lot of promise, and we have a lot of high-powered doctors telling us to do it, and then people start dying, and then the people pointing out that the people are dying get kicked off social media. That whole cycle will just start again, but with a different set of drugs. Well,
hey, along those lines, we should mention that I recently was persuaded to attend a digital re-education camp. Compliments of one of the major platforms out there who will go unnoticed, but you probably watch their stuff all the time. And they were so impressed with my progress and my ability to see, that Big Brother is really on our side and that I love Big Brother, that they've kind of unblocked my channel, at least temporarily. So something good maybe will come of all this.
So are 40,000 people going to see this, Carrie? That would be pretty cool.
I used to have it before Big Brother put the
Yeah.
kibosh on it. And, then you would watch the numbers and it hit 5,000 and then it would stop. And then they decided 5,000 was too much and it went down to 3,000 and 2,000. But now I'm on the good side of Big Brother because I've been re-educated. I mean, I feel like a Uyghur now in China. I feel so.
Carrie, two things. That was not your final re-education camp. I'm sure you're going to get sentenced to more in the future.
Oh, I want to.
And,
I want to go to more.
And
I love Big Brother. I love them. I want to go. Right?
I hear that's a great place to meet right-wing women too. So let me know how that goes. But and the other thing is, if we've got 40,000 new people watching who's never seen the show before, Rubino.substack.com. Okay,
and it's in
come
the
over
show
and
notes.
check me out and subscribe.
It's in the show notes to this interview on Financial Survival Network. So we're not going to let it pass us by. I just feel so good about myself that we figured this thing out, that we finally found a solution that makes everyone happy, and I'm a better person now as well. So everybody wins here, right?
Yeah. Until one of your guests starts talking about just letting, skipping the vaccines and letting Jesus heal them, then you're back on in re-education plan.
Part of it's self-censorship, Yeah. So we got to censor, and we got to make sure that the wrong message doesn't get out, because it can really harm people far worse than all the substances that have been pushed as their savior. But that's a story for another time. Hey, so, Biden is now building the wall, and New Yorkers are happy, and Californians are happy, and Illinoisans are happy. Everybody's happy that the wall is getting built.
This story involves a lot of human suffering, so we shouldn't be laughing about it too much, but politically it is hilarious, because as soon as the Texas and Florida governors started shipping busloads of people up to the sanctuary cities, everything changed. There's crowds of New Yorkers chanting, "Close the border, close the border."
How did that happen?
And so Biden is building a wall now. Yeah, it's
faster
amazing.
Than Trump.
But you know what? It's going to be a rainbow wall. I'm sure they paint rainbow colors on there, and so that'll be okay. But that's one of the good things that came from all this, because we really do. Speaking seriously now, we really do need to get control of the border. This is a nightmare.
Yeah.
You watch what's happening in the Middle East, and we have, 5 million people a year coming in here, most of them young men, and they're coming from all over the world. So we have no idea. I mean, just leaving aside the whole, what does it do to our workforce to have 5 million new people coming in from around the world? But
disaster.
Yeah. How many people are coming in who are part of sleeper cells now, waiting for the signal to just, get up, grab their AK-47s and start mowing people down? And there's no way to know the answer to that question. It could be 0, it could be 2 million, and we do not know the answer to that. So we really need to address this in a hurry and get a handle on these border issues.
Hey, it's really not even a political issue. It shouldn't be a political issue. It should be an issue we can all agree on, because the damage is so apparent and obvious. I went to New York and I was competing against an army of illegal immigrants who were being put up in New York's ailing hotel industry, and has driven up the cost of the hotels that don't take the illegal aliens, shrunk the supply probably by 2/3. It's costing New York billions of dollars a year. And, I just wanted a place to stay for 3 days.
The Babylon Bee has a story out today about how a family from the Midwest or someplace put on Mexican costumes, sombreros and mustaches
Right.
and everything, and they went to a high-end hotel in New York and claimed to be illegal immigrants, and they got put up for free.
I was thinking of doing that because it was so hard to find a hotel less than $500 a night, plus all the fees. New York has a 20% hotel tax, and then with the website levies as well. And it was like, I'm thinking, maybe I'll just put on a sombrero, and I'm learning Spanish anyway, so I'll pretend. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny, right?
I wonder if you could claim to be a refugee from Florida, trying to get away from DeSantis, and they might buy that in New York.
They probably would. They hate DeSantis there. They call him Satan. So if you're looking for news, really, Twitter is like your only source of news to keep up with that. What's happening in Ukraine and what's happening in Israel, in the Middle East.
Why would you go to a legacy media outlet where they're, writing the story and slanting it their way and everything, and then posting it the next day when it's right there on Twitter in real time? So, and that was always Twitter's function, was the real time bulletin board where everything was being posted. But what's funny about, and that's what happened with this too, with the Middle Eastern war. But what's funny is the mainstream media is fighting back. CNBC today has an article about how Twitter is rife with misinformation on the Middle Eastern war, and they've got all these experts, these disinformation experts. Was that even really a thing? To be a disinformation expert was not a thing until 6 months ago. But they're saying, oh yeah, there's so much stuff that's not true on Twitter right now, and we can see it with and they can't catch it in time. And so CNBC is jealous that Twitter is where everybody is going to get information on the war, but that's where you go. That's where you post, and that's where you go, and that's just all there is to it. So
there was once a movie about the French fashion show called Le Pret-a-Porter, and Tim Robbins, I think it might have been Julia Roberts. He meets her. They're both reporters covering it, and they have this fling. And then he's supposed to be reporting on it. So what he does is he watches French TV, and he translates it as he's talking to his New York editor. He's calling in the story. That's what they used to do before computers. And Julia Roberts is like outraged at this fake reporting, because all he's doing is restating what the French media said. And then at the end of the movie, they're both on the phone with their editors, calling in the stories, repeating the story from the French press. That's what our media is like today. It's like nobody has anything original. So yeah, if you want to see something real, go to Twitter. I mean, what bothers me in the Russia-Ukraine war, they were stating Russia's casualties right and left. I haven't heard one estimate other from Russia what Ukraine's casualties have been like. Have you?
The estimates that I've seen are 500,000 of Ukrainians dead.
Oh, Ukrainians?
Yeah, I've seen that estimate. And I had a second thought about this. What was it? I'll come back to it. There was something else that was important in this thought, but I don't know. Wow. Okay, senior moment. We'll come back to that if you want. But there's another thing that was important about that whole thing. But yeah, the legacy media is dying, and citizen journalism is replacing it, and it's vastly better, vastly faster. So it does force you to check sources and stuff like that, and make sure you're not seeing some 2-year-old video from some different war, and because people throw things like that up there. But then, of course, the legacy media lied all the time too and made up stories. So it's not like you're free of disinformation when you watch MSNBC. You're just getting a more polished, different version of disinformation.
Hey, their lies were better. They were better produced, right?
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, because we have all these editors and we have all these people fact checking us and stuff. So you get the truth from us. You get the truth that comes from a memo written by General Dynamics or something. Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. It's really like, hey, there's no winners in wars. Just like in labor strikes, what we learned in economics is when there's a labor strike, nobody wins because the workers lose wages that they would have otherwise earned. And often, however much their increase is not enough to cover how much they lost. The company is injured because they're losing profits. And really, nobody wins these things. And it's the same thing with wars. Yeah, like there might be an ultimate victory on the battlefield, but to get to that point, both sides had to lose so much to get there. It's bad times here. So,
yeah, well, I mean, the people who think they're going to win today's wars are the neocons who assume the U.S. is going to take over the entire world and 5% of the population is going to rule the other 95%. So they don't mind. Oh, I know what I wanted to say about the Ukraine war. There's this calculus that you see out there that say, oh, this is such a good deal because it's only 5% of GDP and we're degrading Russia's military by 50%. It's just a great deal for us, which that equation only works if you count 500,000 dead Ukrainians at zero value.
Collateral damage.
Yeah. They don't count in this calculation. And if you count the risk of global nuclear war as zero as well, because I think a global nuclear war would cost more than 5% of GDP, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't count that either in this equation when you're saying it's a good deal because, we're killing Russians and we're not paying anything for it and only the Ukrainians are dying. People who say that are psychopaths. And a lot of people, Lindsey Graham, for instance, has been saying that. And a lot of other people in our government are saying that. And every single one of them who says that is a monster, without exception. There's no way you can think that way and not be a psycho.
All right. We will leave it at that. Make sure you go to John's Substack. It's rubino.substack.com. Link in the show notes. And we'll throw a few other links in there. And John, we'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks. Hey, go over to financialsurvivalnetwork.com, sign up for your free newsletter. John, we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Gary. Enjoy your new big audience. I'll be looking forward to seeing it.
Me too.